Hey everybody, it is week 6 in EDUT 570. This week you're going deep into John Dewey, How We Think, Part 1. This is dense. This is one of those where you really need to, not surprisingly, do a little self-reflection and figure out how you tend to engage with texts like this that are likely significantly more dense than what either you've ever read or than what you often read. For me, I need to really chunk this out and only read like 2 paragraphs at a time, then take some time, then come back. You will notice do I still have it open in a tab? I do. There's on the sidebar, there's some grayed rectangles, possibly reading through that first and then reading the denser text. That's a good strategy. A lot of students have found success with that. Feel free to save the file from Gutenberg.org as a PDF. If you do like Command P, you'll take that HTML file, save it as a PDF. You can then upload that PDF to various generative AI text interfaces like ChatGPT, like Google Gemini, which used to be Google Bard, so now it's gemini.google.com, like Claude 2 by Anthropic. Lots of choices. You don't want to use these in graduate work for now to write your papers, but it's one of those where when you upload a PDF or if you just copy and paste chunks of text into it, you can then ask questions. You can also, if you're new to this, instead of just saying, explain this to me, you can actually give it kind of a persona or a role to play. Um, you could actually start off with a new chat, and you're going to keep this all in kind of one ongoing chat if you want to go this route, and say, like, you are an exceedingly patient graduate professor. You can say that to me as well if you want. um, you're going to take a very dense, complicated piece of text and explain it very simply to me, um, as though I'm not a graduate student, but I'm an eighth grader or something, if you want, or not, or just explain to me simply. You can say, I love hiking, use hiking analogies, or like trekking analogies. I don't know. I don't hike. Can you tell? Use hiking analogies as you explain this Dewey text to me. Paste it in, and the chatbot's going to give it to you using the analogy, and treating it in a way. You can say, like, you know, ask me some questions about it. I want to be able to ask you questions about it. And then when you paste in the text, you're going to get that behavior back from it. I did a version of this, by the way, and I'm going to share that with you as my way of kind of explaining it. I was talking with some ed tech friends who have picked up various hobbies as adults. Some they've come back to, some are newer ones. One was sharing that he loves to run and like never ran before. This is, by the way, Josh Stumpenhorst, who was keynote at ISTE conferences, was the Illinois Teacher of the Year. Great human, um, great follow if you're looking for people to follow on social media. And he was like, yeah, like I did like high jump in high school, and now I run every day. He's run every day for 12 years. And in Illinois, it gets very cold. Another who runs an elementary school down in Tennessee. Um, Philip is doing crossword puzzles, right? So we're talking about this. Scott Bedley, who teaches fifth grade in Irvine, brilliant educator, one of the most brilliant educators I've ever met, actually. Worth following his podcast, Bedley Brothers. Give him a follow on stuff. He's like, I started cooking as an adult, and I never did that before. I am with Scott. I have recently started being more interested in cooking, and through lockdown, my kids have specific cravings that I was like, I could figure out how to make that. So now I make chicken strips. My wife's like, oh, we should get tortilla chips. I can make tortilla chips. Not as good as La Tolteca and Azusa. Those are like the best tortilla chips. Do yourself a favor next time you're in that area. But I can make them, and they're good. I can do hard shell tacos. I'm describing kind of fried foods, but like cakes and a whole bunch of like homemade cookies, which is baking, not cooking. but suddenly, like, that's a thing. So I'm going to give you some baking ideas and connections around John Dewey and what you're going to be reading. And hopefully it'll give you a way to make the text a bit more accessible. So, reflective thinking. No big surprise, that's the overarching theme of this writing. And the idea, the analogy here is that it's connected to like a recipe, right? You have trial, error, refinement. Robert Rodriguez, who has done many, many movies, he's probably most famous for Spy Kids, does a thing where he will cook a specific meal every single day, every single week for 2 straight months. And so one he did, let's see if I can find it for you. It was Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Johnny Depp's character would order, I didn't even have to look it up, and I remember it, puerco pibil. Forgive the accent, that was terrible. So his character would do that, and the reason he picked that particular dish is that Robert Rodriguez did this for 8 straight weeks. Like every Thursday he would make puerco pibil and had like a special grinder. And so the whole idea is that like the first time he made it, it was okay, but by that 8th time, yes, his family's starting to get sick of it, but he's really got that dish kind of locked in. And every time he's doing it, he's really being critical about what's working, what doesn't working. He's getting the practice about it. That is reflective thinking. And by the way, when you visit his house in Austin, Texas, if you're doing some voiceover work or just hanging out with him or working in his video editing or audio editing studio, he'll give you a menu with like 4 dishes. Puerco pibil is one of them, and people pretty consistently will say to him, this is like some of the best Mexican food I've ever had. You know, like, you're such a great chef. And it's actually not that he can make all the things. He has picked 4 dishes, and he does only 4 dishes really, really well. But he does those dishes really, really well. And in some ways, I think we can take a lot of lessons of reflective thinking and apply it to how he's learned to cook. The next big step in your Dewey text is critical analysis. And so the idea is really like sifting through those ingredients, getting like just the right blend of ingredients. Do we need a little bit more cumin in this? How does that affect it? Do we add a little more salt? If we're looking at desserts, you kind of how soft is the butter? How much vanilla do we add? All of those things, critical analysis. The scientific attitude is actually understanding why you do the thing when you're cooking. So it's not just step by step, but it's, when we heat the fat, whether it's canola oil or butter, in a pan first, what that's actually doing is it's creating a barrier between the pan and our food so our food won't stick. And now we can use just a straight stainless skillet. We don't have to have non-stick. Right? Scientific attitude. Play and work. This is a stretch with the cooking analogy, but the idea is experimentation, balancing play. Like, what if we add, like my 3rd grader, he'll be like, can we add some smoked garlic chipotle seasoning? And I'm like, yes, we can. Add that to some chicken that I'm crisping up. And so it's the balance of that with the work of like either cooking the meal or kind of eating the meal, but like work and play. And education, critically important, is something we often overlook. Imagination and observation is really imagining, like, if we're cooking, what that dish is going to look like. And as we look at each ingredient, we know how that fits into the final dish. So if we're cooking something that has like dairy in it, whether it's maybe like a chowder you're making at home or like butter chicken is something I've cooked that has dairy, you do it at the very, very end. Right? I don't want to open up my Instant Pot, pour in chicken stock or crushed tomatoes, pressure cook it with milk in there. No milk, no cream if you're pressure cooking. That goes in afterwards. And so understanding that imagination and observation, how do all those ingredients fit together? And I know what the outcome's going to look like. And part of that is that expertise of being a teacher or doing repetitive cooking is going to give you that. Familial and novel, contrasting those, looking at well-known flavors with new, innovative dishes. This fits in right with our school's analogy of taking risks. Let me try the new thing. And then the educational aim. So the idea when you're cooking is not just to follow the recipe, but really to understand it, to make it your own, to be able to innovate upon them. So, hopefully all of that makes sense. Hopefully you're a little bit hungry. Maybe you'll find something. You'll grab a recipe and be like, I'm going to make this for the next 8 Saturdays. And then you will really be living out John Dewey Part 1. That's all you've got this week. You have that Microsoft Flip video reflection. That's worth, the weighting of it is twice what the previous 5 weeks are. Make sure you're continuing to do a weekly reflection to Flip. You're going to see those hit when the course ends in week 8, but you need to be putting those in each and every week. And that is what you've got for week number 6. It's some dense reading, but hang in there. Use the tools at your disposal to make this reading more accessible, more intuitive. Interact with it with various AI bots if that is helpful for you. And if not, then maybe come up with your own analogy, whether it's hiking, gardening, cooking. All of those actually fit really well with this particular idea of that. And then final thing for you is looking ahead to week number 7. That's when your presentation is due. So make sure to look at that, see what that big presentation is going to be. We're going to continue Dewey readings in week 7 and 8. This is just deep into the reading. And so in one more full week, you have that presentation. And that is all for week number 6. I need to go find a snack. What am I going to make for dinner? I'm making some cookies tomorrow. And I don't know about dinner tonight. Too many decisions. All right. Happy week 6.